I've never seen anything like this, and I hope never to again.
We started to realize that this pattern of storm after storm after storm was not breaking down. All the rivers in the Midwest just went crazy.
And all of that has to pass right in front of the Gateway Arch.
So this is unheard of. It just doesn't happen.
Record-setting rains pound the Midwest night and day, week after week. In Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, and other states, rivers wash over the heartland, destroying property and shattering lives.
First time in my life, and I don't know what I'm going to do.
Emergency crews risk their lives to make dramatic rescues, like this one in eastern Iowa. This time, everyone survives. But across the country, more than 40 people have died because of the flood. Blame the floods for $10 billion in damage so far, for tearing into more than 22,000 homes.
I didn't think I'd ever see anything like this.
For washing away businesses, and for ruining 16,000 square miles of cropland. Farmers who desperately need a good crop to survive will harvest little or nothing.
Just been a struggle.
The flood of '93 shut down the Mississippi River for hundreds of miles, bringing barge traffic to a standstill. Last weekend, flooding knocked out a water treatment plant serving 85,000 people in St. Joseph, Missouri. It's like what happened in Des Moines, where 250,000 people went without any tap water for 12 days.
You don't realize what water means to you until you can't have it.
And it may be days or weeks before their water is safe to drink. The Missouri River is out of its banks too, closing 120 miles of Interstate 29 and threatening the southwest Iowa town of Hamburg and major cities downriver. Iowa Governor Terry Branstad called this flood the worst disaster in state history. President Clinton saw the damage firsthand.
We'll do what we can to help.
The president proposes $4 billion in disaster aid. But even he says it won't begin to cover all the losses. It won't come close to healing the hurt.
Whatever we can do to help you, we will do everything possible that we can. Okay?
Yes.
All right.
We'll need it.
The American Red Cross is there at every turn, comforting victims, offering food, shelter, and more. But resources are short, and the Red Cross needs your help. That's why tonight, on hundreds of television and radio stations coast to coast and beyond, we present Flood Aid, broadcast across America.
Good evening. I'm Spencer Christian from ABC's Good Morning America.
And I'm Lou Willard Scott from the Today Show and NBC.
And I'm Jay Thomas from CBS's Love and War. And I want you to remember that the phone number is 1-800-842-2200. This is Flood Aid, broadcast across America. And we're here today to hopefully bring some happiness and, of course, some rebuilding to these people that have been devastated. Willard?
And between the three of us, he's the only one that's not a weatherman, so he may know what's happening.
You're right. You're absolutely
Listen,
right.
we are so honored to be here. I know I can speak for all of us. This is the 150th birthday of the beautiful city of Des Moines. And you know something? People in America want so desperately to help, and that's why we're here tonight. Now, listen, telethons usually go 24 hours or 2 days. This is 1 hour.
That's right.
You only have 1 hour in which to call. We need your love, your support, but we need your money.
And this 1 hour program is unprecedented, Willard, in the history of television broadcasting, because in a business in which we generally compete against each other, tonight we're all working together. We have 300 television stations cutting across all the major networks, cable systems, hundreds of radio stations, independent stations, all coming together, reaching about 62 million homes in America. That's about 70% of the public. So this is truly Flood Aid broadcast across America.
You know something else? The federal folks can do only so much. The beautiful Red Cross, the Salvation Army, the independent church groups, they can only do so much. Now, tonight, please, we desperately want your personal help.
Now, I'm going to have to give you the number one more time, 1-800-842-2200. It's open for an hour and starting right now, but for 24 hours and for months to come and weeks to come and days to come, this is the number for you to call in and pledge your money to the Red Cross that will help all the flood victims in the Midwest.
And right now, we are going live to the White House, where the President of the United States is about to join us, President Bill Clinton, with a message. Mr. President?
Thank you very much, Spencer. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching tonight. I have made 3 trips now to the Midwest during this flood. My Secretary of Agriculture and the Director of FEMA have been there many, many more times. We've seen so many people who've lost their homes, their farms, their businesses, but they're carrying on very, very bravely. Here in Washington, we're working hard to get a multi-billion-dollar emergency aid package through the Congress to help to rebuild the communities, the businesses, the homes, to help to provide basic assistance. But the federal government can't do it all. Our country always has had a system in which the national government would come to the need of states and communities and citizens when they needed help. But we've never been able to cover all the cost, and we won't be able to now. That's why we need your help. The Red Cross has done a magnificent job, so has the Salvation Army, so have the churches and the other community groups, so have thousands of people, young and old, and all in between, who've come to help. But we need your help, and I hope that you too will contribute whatever you can afford to help these wonderful Americans put their lives back together. They need your encouragement and your support. We'll do our part. We need you to help too. Thank you, Spencer.
Mr. President, we have a couple of people here in the audience who have questions for you. Standing next to me is Linda Pace from Des Moines. And Linda, your question for the President.
Yes, Mr. President, we all know that aid has been promised to this area, but we want to know how soon is it going to arrive. In addition to that, we want to know, are there safeguards that are going to be put into place that will prevent this from ever happening again?
The aid should be there very soon. Of course, some of the emergency aid is there now. The Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Department of Agriculture have been giving cash and food stamps to people who are totally out of all resources and money. But the big aid will be there just as quickly as we can get it through the Congress. I think it will happen very soon. And we're all set up to move the checks out very quickly, I think within a couple of weeks after I can sign the bill. And that should be just in the next day or so. In terms of the long run, we've already got a group established to look at that. I met with the governors of the affected states here in the White House just a couple of days ago, and we're going to work hard on the long run, too. I don't want this to happen again to you or to anybody else.
Okay, Mr. President, we have one more question for you. Michael Stell, also from Des Moines. Michael, your question?
I would like to know how long it's going to take before we can just even get some information on what's happening. It seems like I call 3 or 4 times a day to every agency, and nobody can tell me anything about what's going on.
Michael, there is an 800 number that gets several thousand calls a day just from Iowa down in Texas. If you don't have it, I will arrange to have it called in while the telethon is going on. We've tried to set up a one-stop telephone so that all Americans who are affected by the flood could call. We're going to do our best, as I said, to take care of this and also to take care of the long-term problems. I can't control the weather, but we're going to work hard to help you.
I can't control it either, Mr. President. Thank you for being with us this evening, and thank you for your questions.
Thank you, Spencer.
Okay, and now we go over to Willard.
Thank you, Spencer. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, and all the good people. You know, they say all the rain that fell here, it's such a beautiful evening right now. 2 or 3 days ago, the rain was pouring down, 25 inches in some places. That would equate to something like 50 feet of snow if it were wintertime. It has been horrible. 11 million people here in Des Moines alone without drinking water, all up and down the Mississippi, and the flood continues because the river is moving on further south. The southern part of the Mississippi still hasn't reached its peak yet. Please, we need your money. You Americans want to help Americans. You're the most generous people in the world. You help everybody else. Now it's time to help ourselves. 1-800-842-2200. Here now, take a look at some videotapes showing you our Des Moines story.
I'm Kevin Cooney, news anchor for KCCI TV in Des Moines. This is the Des Moines Waterworks, ground zero in a battle between Mother Nature and the citizens of central Iowa. Early on the morning of July 11th, Mother Nature won that battle. The Des Moines Waterworks provides water for some 250,000 residents of the city and its suburbs. When the raging waters of the Raccoon River swamped the plant, the largest single water outage in the history of the United States was on.
It's terrible. I think it's going to affect people, and they don't even know how badly it's going to affect them and for how long.
Because there's no water. And there's flood.
Even as Des Moines area residents jammed grocery stores in search of bottled water, government leaders worked quickly to set up water distribution sites all over town. We quickly learned not to take water for granted.
We watch on the news things like Sarajevo,
and think, my, how unfortunate those people are. And they've been going through that for a year, and we're going to have to go through it for a week.
Without water, Des Moines residents learned to make do, collecting rainwater from gutters or washing and flushing toilets. Portable showers sprung up, bringing some much-needed relief.
We saw you walk out of there. It looked like you emerged a new man.
I did. I did. My wife will say so, too.
Back at the Des Moines Waterworks, technicians worked frantically to bring the plant back online.
Our critical thing still is the pumps. And we are working right now, and we're going to be using the big helicopter to be able to pluck those things right out of there, load them onto a truck, and send them off to be repaired.
And thousands of Central Iowans gathered not far away, filling sandbags and building up the levee should the Raccoon River rise again. They even got a little presidential help.
It's going to show the country that we're really putting things together, but we need more help.
The National Guard pitched in too, dropping sandbags by the hundreds around the waterworks plant in a frantic race against the clock and the possibility of more flooding.
They said if we can get her done, hold it off, they'll have water back in the pipes in a week. Right over here.
That would be none too soon for Des Moines firefighters, facing this $1 million blaze with empty fire hydrants. Large water tanker trucks rolled with every fire truck on every call, and firefighters prayed they'd have enough water to do the job.
There's no water, as we know, in Des Moines, and there's no water in the main, so this is our life support, basically.
Des Moines hospitals hauled water too, until the military set up emergency water purification units that could turn muddy river water into the good stuff. The city was coping, but residents were ready to get their water back.
Open it all the way. Let it flow.
Oh, good deal.
Des Moines residents, after 12 long days, finally had their water back for flushing and bathing.
Okay.
But we're still waiting for the all clear that the water is safe to drink.
Can't get any more in there.
I'm WOI News anchor Pauletta Longo. Behind me you see some of the signs of destruction left behind by the floods of '93. When creeks and rivers started rising, Ames was one of the first cities in Mother Nature's path. This was the first sign of serious trouble. Torrential rains and damaging winds swept across north-central Iowa. The Squaw Creek and Skunk River lapped at their banks. Manhole covers sounded a warning. Volunteers began sandbagging, but no one was prepared for what morning brought. One of the city's main thoroughfares was underwater. Over 100 businesses in Ames were damaged. On the Iowa State campus, floodwaters swallowed up university buildings. 14 feet of water moved into Hilton Coliseum, the home of the Iowa State Cyclones. At the King City Trailer Park, 60 out of 63 mobile homes were destroyed. People there lost everything. In just a few short hours, the high waters did millions of dollars in damage.
I went to work that Friday morning, and they called me at work and told me I couldn't come home.
And now, almost 3 weeks later, people are still hurting. King City Trailer Park is a ghost town. David and Ruth Sin have moved out, but make a trip back to wait for an insurance adjuster.
This upset, nothing I can do about it. All the damage is over and done with.
Are you hopeful you'll be able to get everything back?
Yeah, but I know we won't. Just have to start over.
The Sins are among the few who have flood insurance.
I'm Dick. Thanks. How are you?
The insurance adjuster arrives and examines the damage.
How about the mobile home? Let's deal with the mobile home first, okay?
It will be at least 10 days before the Sins know how much they'll recover. Next door, Adam Sees is cleaning up. A sophomore at Iowa State University, Adam bought the trailer to live in while going to college.
I got to find another place to live now and find the money to go to school now. Because of the trailer, I put money into that, and that was my housing for the next 4 years. So
Adam still owes $4,000 on the home. Sometimes it isn't the amount of money you lose that hurts the most.
Pictures. My girls' baby pictures.
The flooding in Ames lasted only a short time, but the impact could last a lifetime.
I'm WHO-TV anchor John Bachman in Des Moines. The flooding here has inflicted a devastating toll on so many victims.
And yet, the spirits of even those who have lost so much have been raised by the outpouring of volunteer support. It's a double-edged story with both pain and inspiration. You can see it in their eyes and read it on their faces, the strain and pain of the region's worst natural disaster.
And take each one and clip them up, and they'll dry out.
And
they might not be perfect, but we'll be able to save them. Okay.
Okay. Look at that. Those are all my grandkids.
Shirley Andrews of West Des Moines learns the photos of her grandchildren ravaged by floodwaters will never be the same. For Shirley and thousands of others like her, life will never be the same.
These folks had very little. And what they had, they lost.
The losses are staggering. Whole neighborhoods swallowed up. Businesses that weathered the recession sink under the fury of floodwaters. When a lifeline is needed, it steps forward in the form of a volunteer. Volunteers by the thousands show up to fight the battle of their lives.
What's the motivation? What's drawing everybody down here?
I just think a sense of trying to help out and knowing that if this happened to you and you were one of the people who got hit the hardest, everybody down here helping you out.
And I know if I was down and out like some of them, I would be very happy to get what we're trying to give.
By any means and from all parts, they descend on the city, roll up their sleeves, and pitch in. The volunteers ask for nothing in return. They know they are needed. They know they are appreciated.
But they're so torn out what happened. They're crying, and you have to walk away and just keep doing the work so you don't feel their pain. You're just trying to keep your distance and do what you got to do.
And they did what they had to do. As one wave of volunteers would tire, another line would form. Their spirit and energy gave new life to a tired city. Perhaps their greatest gift wasn't the work they did, but the feeling of hope they left behind.
We'll be back. We will.
Don't bet against them. This is John Bachman for Flood Aid, broadcast across America.
Or is it Robert E. Lee? Are we back in business?
We are back in business live. 1-800-842-2200 is the number. By the way, we've had over 1 million calls. Is it 1.5 million yet?
Isn't that terrific?
And we've been on the air maybe 20 minutes, so thank you very much.
That's
Visa,
wonderful. Isn't that great?
MasterCard, American Express. And remember, we're just here for 1 hour. And folks have already started calling. If we'll leave the air sooner than that, they'll give more money.
People have pledged if we'll get off the air, at least $2,000 a minute to get back. Listen, I have a little surprise. Reach in my pocket. I have a nice donation here. Of course, I knew about this because I put it in my pocket. It is a check. And show them the check and then tell them from whom it's from. See the check? There's a real honest-to-goodness check.
This is like one of Roseanne Barr's paychecks. It's a check for $100,000.
100, and from whom?
From the Johnny Carson Foundation that we just got. Johnny, of course.
Isn't that terrific? God bless.
Do I keep this?
From Norfolk, Nebraska, isn't that right? He thinks he's from Des Moines. That's why he gave the money.
Local flood aid stations, if you want to cut away, now is the time to do it.